Boom. Oh, my goodness. We got a double header here on MJT. I know I said it was going to be about 5 minutes. It was probably closer to 20. But we appreciate you considering potentially jumping in here, talking football with us, maybe subscribing if you're feeling real crazy. Who knows? You can hang around, see if it's something that you're interested in. Comments are always welcome over there in the chat. Today we are talking about our NFC predictions. And if you caught the East Division breakdowns for both sides, it got a little tense. I don't think this is going to get any easier or lighter because we are talking about teams, especially in the AFC, that are near and dear to our hearts. I am joined by NFL Mike on all the socials. Follow him there. And the Joe Morley. Go follow him on all the socials there. Tony Tucker, your host. Let's start, gentlemen, with the end of the craziest, weirdest saga I've ever seen in contract negotiations. Brandon Ayuk signs with the 49ers. I don't know if anybody really, obviously, Ayuk won. The dude got a humongous payday. But I just am like, you missed all this time with your top wide receiver now, at least top paid wide receiver, and your quarterback, and trying to go to the next level. This was actually Brock Purdy's first healthy, you're the guy off season. It should have been seamless for the 49ers. And Brandon Ayuk was just like, hey, I'm worth this. And the 49ers are like, to us, you're worth this. Mm-hmm. They eventually settle on it. Mike, where you at on this deal for him?
I'm kind of twisted, honestly. My opinion is kind of twisted because I felt like they needed to get the deal done. And if you had to pick between weapons to lose, there was a few names that I would rather lose as far as big contracts go before Brandon Ayuk, just because of what he's brought to the offense over the last couple of years. He's been their deep threat. He's been their big playmaker. He's been their go-to slant runner. He's been their go-to, he's been their go-to for almost everything, while Debo does all the stuff that Debo does and brings to this offense. And that's what makes them so electric. And that's why I felt like they really needed to get the deal done with Ayuk. He's been their leading receiver the last couple of years. He's been the healthiest receiver the last couple of years. And the whole thing with Ricky Pearsall, even before this tragic thing that happened to him with the gunshot. And I saw a video of him. What a freaking savage. I don't know if you guys saw him getting into the ambulance. Still had the Rolex on there trying to steal from him. And he's going into the ambulance with this on his wrist.
It's tough. I don't know what Joe's shaking, but I'm sure Joe's going to say something awful about a guy who survived gunshot.
No, I'm not I'm just not going to build him up as a hero because what he did was what happened to him is horrible. What he did is stupidity. To fight somebody with a gun, stupidity.
Oh yeah, I agree with that. But I'm just talking about how I'm
not going to tell people look at his story and do exactly what he did. He's lucky to be alive today.
100%.
I agree.
Yeah,
it is ill-advised.
The moral of my story was the direction I was going is before he got shot and did that really cool thing that I was trying to mention about the Rolex. I still didn't believe that Ricky Pearsall was just going to step into Brandon Ayuk's spot and fill his shoes right away. I felt like they should have looked towards the future as Pearsall and Ayuk being their feature weapons. And it seems like that's happening. But then on the flip side, I'm doing some math, and you guys saw the video I put out. I think I edited it right next to you as we were driving to Vegas. It just isn't adding up. They are going to lose a bunch of players next offseason, and it's going to be like George Kittle or Trent Williams if they don't get a deal done. It's going to be big names. But I feel like they made the right choice when they talk about who are we going to give the money to and commit the future towards. I think 11 was the right choice. They played hardball for probably an extra $5 million per year, and they won. So congrats to the Niners. I think it's a good move.
Yeah. Joe, any thoughts on Ayuk?
Well, I was just reading, how all the stories come out afterwards and stuff like that. So they were saying that the Patriots were willing to offer a second and third round pick plus Kendrick Bourne and pay Ayuk $32 million. So once he turned that down, you knew he wanted to stay in San Francisco. We talked about it all offseason. We were like, why do they keep having meetings? You knew all along that it kind of felt like Ayuk wasn't leaving. He was just maybe he just didn't want to go to camp. Maybe he wanted to take some time off. He saw Debo take time off. He saw other people take some time off the last couple of years. So it got done. Good for them. It makes the Niners a better team because we would have had some question marks about the Niners after that. But there is one big question mark, and that's Trent Williams still out there. So he needs to get it done. Can the Niners get that done before the start of the season? But the Ayuk signing $30 million, receiver money is good right now. Receiver money is fucking good right now. Like, can we go back in time and make? I don't know. I have this guy in my DMs. He said he can make me a wide receiver, so I'm about to hit him up.
Getting that deal done, man. It's such a big deal. It changed to have one in this division.
So I'm gonna say this. I think that some of these teams need to start calling their bluffs because effectively these players have like no trade clauses. Because if I'm the 49ers and you're not showing up at camp and the Browns come with a second round pick and Amari Cooper, deuces. Like, you don't want to show up here. I'm trading you. And the Browns need to have the conviction and say, like, yeah, we're going to trade you and we're going to pay you because eventually he's going to show up. He has to show up at a certain point, like I think it's by week 7 for the year to count anyways. Otherwise, he just rolls over into the same situation that he's in. So he's going to show up. And then you also have the power next year. It's like, oh, you don't want to play here? Great. You just got franchise tagged and we'll do it again. We will continue to be around this merry-go-round, but at the same time, showing that player the love and saying like, hey, we are going to pay you what you want. We're going to give you the $33 million a year. We're going to take care of you. We are investing in you. And I just think that like teams are a little afraid to do that. Yeah. Brandon Ayuk was not going to just retire from football. He was going to show up and collect his money. And the 49ers were on the verge of like really messing things up. Like, this is a small window that you have for CMC to still be this effective and this healthy. George Kittle to still be playing, I think, the best overall tight end in football, right? Like, nobody's as offensive as him in the game. And what he does in the run game is just absolutely annihilation. So you have this window, Trent at 36. I don't want to say he's older than that, like years old. You have to capitalize on it. And they should have got this deal done. And they do. Here we go. 49ers got to be one of the favorites to be returned to Super Bowl this year.
Maybe Joe's right about the whole thing with Ayuk not wanting to go to camp or Ayuk wanting some time off, man. It just feels like a lot of wasted time that it's probably going to hurt the start of their year. But, hey, they got it done. They got it done. And you're right, Tony. And I think that the team that we're going to talk about today, the Chargers, probably will be in the market next offseason for a George Kittle or a Deebo Samuel. So let's see what happens.
Yeah, I thought Harrison's comment about Deebo to the Panthers, that does feel like a spot where it's like, hey, this guy got cut. We'll pay Deebo that kind of money to have him come in here and see if we can get a couple of good years out of him. Because if you're trying to establish a culture, I think Deebo is one of those guys that a lot of teams would pay a couple extra million to. Deebo's also from that area, played at South Carolina. Or I don't know if he's from that area, but has ties to that area because of the college football background. So, hey.
They'll give him a nice payday, 2-year nice payday, because they have some room to just pay some people.
And again, you need to establish when you get in this situation with like, we're at a spot, the quarterback, the documentary that's going to be done on that draft class and taking Bryce Young number 1 overall is going to be absolutely so much fun to watch. Let's get in to our West predictions. I'm going to go ahead and start with Mike on this one. We're going to start in the AFC West. Let's just fire in at the top of the show.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm kind of scared, Tony, to go straight to the AFC West like that. I want to get a little warm up in here, get some words out. But all right, I'll start us here with the AFC West. And my last place team is probably the same team you guys have finishing in last, the Las Vegas Raiders, because they suck. They suck really bad, and they're the worst team in the NFL. I'm just kidding. I have the Broncos in last. I'm not going to turn away from my takes that I have on other teams like the Patriots, even the Bears. You guys see I'm doubting the Bears a little bit just because of the rookie quarterback thing. The Commanders, list goes on. It was the Vikings too until JJ got hurt. And here we are with the Broncos. I think they're in too tough of a division for Bo Nix to come in here and be what he has to be for them to win a bunch of games. Can they win more than 5? Would I have them winning? Yes, they can win more than 5. There's games in the schedule that I have them losing that are 50-50 that they can win. But I think the ceiling, if the Broncos upset like a lot of teams this year, is still 8. I have them upsetting a few teams. I have them splitting with the Chargers. I have them getting the Week 18 game against the Chiefs with the Chiefs resting their starters. But it's just this team is not ready to compete in this division yet. I think they're going to be one of the worser teams in the AFC as well. In first, I have the Chiefs. Just some honesty. I have the Chiefs going 12-5, and I don't even feel like I need to say why. In second, I have the Chargers at 10-7, which I think this team can be an 11-win team, 12-win team if it goes really well. But I think 11 wins is very, very insight for the Chargers because I have the Chargers winning 10, but I gave Arizona on the road a game. I gave Cleveland on the road a game. Baltimore here in SoFi and Thanksgiving week. That's going to be fun. Cincinnati the week before that. Those two games, I think the Chargers can sneak one of those two. And then I have the Raiders winning week 18 because the Chargers are resting starters because they're locked into a wild card spot according to my other predictions. So those games flip. The Chargers immediately are an 11-win team in my eyes and are right there with the Kansas City Chiefs at 12-5 winning the division. And then I have the Raiders 8-9. I do think that the Raiders have a great defensive line as Joe's been propping up. I have a lot of questions about the secondary, but that can be covered up for the most part, and the Raiders can still have a top 10 defense. I think that the Raiders' weapon core is one of the best in the leagues, and that's going to help cover up some of the issues that you might run into with Minshew. But I don't think that the defensive line is dominant enough to carry this team to a 10-win season. I don't think the weapon core is dominant enough to carry Gardner Minshew to a 10-win season. So I'm tampering it a little bit at around 500. I have them at 8-9. But I do think that, the Raiders could also win a few more games because I have them losing to Cincinnati in a similar mindset to the Chargers. I have them losing to Tampa late in the year in like a 3-game losing streak road trip situation. They play Miami, Kansas City, Tampa Bay within 4 weeks. Those games flip. The Raiders are right there with the Chargers. So I think that these two teams are similar. The head coach and the quarterback puts the Chargers over for me. And the fact the Raiders suck. That also is a problem too.
What was I
go from start to finish. I got Chiefs at 12-5. I got the Chargers at 10-7. I got the Raiders at 8-9 and the Broncos at 5-12.
All right, Joe, it's rebuttal time, and also for your AFC West predictions.
It's the start of the football season, and it's still not week 1 yet because Charger fans still have expectations, high expectations at that. Because Mike, just tell everybody what you're smoking here in California because holy shit, they need some of that. 12 wins for the Los Angeles Chargers. So 1 win per fan is what we're giving them this year. Fuck no. When they've done nothing but get worse in the offseason, and now we're going to rely. Now we're going to find out how good Justin Herbert is this year when he really has to put the team on his back.
Wait a second. He already put the team on his back. He already put a team on his back multiple times. What do you mean we're going to see? We already saw it.
What happened? Put that team on his back last year, and look at what happened. Easton Stick finished at the end.
Let him go, Mike.
I can't.
That's right. Let the man go, Mike.
He's saying that I have them winning 12 games, and I just said 10 games. He's just lying.
I know.
Okay. All right.
Anyways, Charger fans be smoking a lot of weed here in California. They're crazy. It's fucking nuts. The smoke that you would think that you guys are getting out of a car with fucking Snoop Dogg to make your fucking predictions this year. Fucking nuts. Anyways, I have the Denver Broncos coming in last place. I'm not buying any of that hype. I have the Denver Broncos going 5-12. I'm not buying Bo Nix on the offense. I think they'll be a more competitive team, but just the losses are going to pile up. Maybe they'll lose by 3 or 4 each game, but they're moving towards the right direction. They're just not there yet. Sean Payton still has to build that defense. I think that defense has taken a step back from the Broncos defense that we've seen the last couple of years. And Mike McGlinchey, Tony already knows what we think about Mike McGlinchey on that offensive line.
Always Glynchy.
So there we go. Number 1, I'm going to put the Kansas City Chiefs at first in this division at 12-5, just because Patrick Mahomes. I think, and you guys know after the initial 53-man roster, they're still one of the top youngest teams in the league. I think their average age is 24, 25 years old. The youngest team, just well coached there, and everybody's trying to go after them. But I do think they do have a little bit more flaws this year than we have seen in the past. Even though everybody's trying to build up their wide receiver core again, just because they didn't have wide receivers last year and Patrick Mahomes was able to make the play. But how many times can we get along? I mean, we've already seen the referees put on their Chiefs jerseys. They might have to do it again one more season to help these guys out if they want to go for a three-peat. But a three-peat, come on. I don't want to hear about a goddamn three-peat. In second place, I have the Raiders. Of course, I do have the Raiders in second place at 9-8. And the Raiders, it's a tough damn schedule for the Raiders. It's a very tough schedule. But this is progress. I know a lot of Raider fans will be like, what is 9-8 and we want to win 10 or more? No, 9-8 in a first year with Antonio Pierce is great. Would be a great, amazing feat for the Raiders to get there and turn this franchise around, especially with Gardner Minshew or Aiden O'Connell as a quarterback. But this defense is going to – the Raiders are going to win a lot of games where they only score 18 fucking points and keep the opponents down. And that's the way that they want to play. They want to play smash mouth football, running the ball, keeping the defense keeping the defense fresh and keeping the other offense down on out of the end zone, in which the Raiders have been good at since Antonio Pierce has taken over. And then in third place, I have the Chargers, and you know what, Mike, I have them go 9-8 too. But losing Week 18 to the Raiders is not going to help their playoff bid.
Same old story. Mike, is there anything you want to give a quick rebuttal to? And then, okay. So Mike has fully put himself on timeout in the show here. So AFC West, my perspective on this. Last place, I'm going to agree with them. I do think it is the Denver Broncos. Now, the Broncos also have like a wide range of outcomes where it's like, if they actually achieve ultimate health this year across the offensive line, defensively, and stuff like that, I think the Broncos can probably get up to about 10 or 11 wins, because that is what I think of Sean Payton, right? Like, they need ultimate health. There's just a lot of depth. Again, I'm not claiming to be an expert, but I'm just saying I'm unfamiliar with it as of somebody who's obsessed with football, watches the rookies every year, reads a lot of reports, does a lot of things. Like, there's just a lot of guys where I'm like, is this really a reliable depth that they have? That's the one concern, is I just don't think they can necessarily survive some of the injuries at very key positions. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I do think Bo Nix is going to be very good in this, with Sean Payton in the system. I don't think the wide receiver core is nearly as bad as some people that I have heard say about them. I just think that a lot of close football games are going to end with the Broncos taking a loss. First place, again, I'm in agreement. I've picked in years past the Chargers to knock off the Chiefs. I'm not going to do it this year. Like, it's just not going to be in that. It's not that time for that to happen. Maybe next year I will be more inclined to do that. 12-5 for the Kansas City Chiefs. I just think upgrades at wide receiver like that. There might be a little bit of a bumpy road at a certain point with the cornerback situation. But when you have a coordinator like Spagnuolo, you're going to figure out, you will increase pressure in the right way or decrease depending on what your team needs. He'll make great adjustments there. And I think that the run game for the Chiefs can elevate to the next level. Second place, I got the Chargers, 10-7 this year. I can see this going up one, down one, depending on injuries again, because like with the Broncos, there is some questionable depth at certain spots on the team. Where I feel most secure is a very important spot, which is the offensive and defensive line. I do think that the Chargers have a good depth on the offensive line, where they have a couple of guys that can come in, I think are good. Defensive line, the pass rush room, I think has a chance to be, I'll just say edge rushers. Interior, not as much, but the 4 edge guys they have, I feel really great about that. And I just feel I am so excited to see Justin Herbert with a team that actually is going to have an identity. Like, a team that's going to say, like, hey, we are going to run the football. We are going to play action. We're going to be physical team that is inclined to take shots. With Herbert is exciting there. And then just like the amount of close games that we've had to suffer through, and Mike even more so over the last 15 years of just bad decision making. I just don't think that'll be the case. I don't believe that we will ever see Jim Harbaugh go for it on his own 18-yard line or his own 40 when he's up by 2 against the Browns a couple of years ago. We will not see decisions like that being made. We'll see sound decisions that will make sense. Yeah, Realistic RV is talking about Herbert 4,000 plus yards. I agree.
In his sleep, he could go out there with a blindfold.
In that neighborhood of about 42 to 4,400, and it's going to be way better than everybody's. The fantasy community almost seems like they've just poisoned every person I hear talking, as if all of a sudden you're going to pay this guy and he's going to have this ability and you're not going to throw the football. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Oh, well, the wide receiver weapons. That's why he gets paid that money. That's why he's that dude, because they're going to work it out. It'll be just fine. I got the Raiders at 8-9. I want to make the Raiders worse off, but as a Chargers fan, this is actually the best position that you could have them in. 8-9 means that they got to mortgage a lot if they want to get up to the top of the draft, which we all know Tommy T probably ain't mortgages in that much to get up there to get the quarterback of the future. And this way they don't make the playoffs. It's just sort of a win-win all around. But if I am being honest about what I see from this team, I think this is going to be a year where Patrick Graham is going to start to get some notice for what he's able to do. He's put out some pretty nice defenses with far less talent than the Raiders have right now in that D-line. Far less talent than they've had in the secondary, even in a linebacker area there. So, like, I think that they can lean on Zamir White. Like, they can see how that goes, try and have a power run game there with him too. Like, again, and this is about identity. And the other thing that I've not heard a lot of people talk about for the Raiders is when Antonio Pierce is a new coach. He's clearly the least accomplished coach in this league or in this division. But he's got Coughlin in his corner. He's got Marvin Lewis. Like, these are experienced coaches that he has in there, building structure, building routine, keeping people accountable. I think that can really help him out. So I just think ultimately where the organization has placed itself, not getting a quarterback this year, like not just figuring it out, hell or high water, this is what we're doing. We're going into the season with Gardner and a guy that we're going to develop, because they're telling us right now, like, they're kind of out on AOC by not giving him a chance to start the season.
Yeah.
Which I just think that leaves you in a spot where you need to win some football games this year. I think they'll win 7 to 8 games. So I got Chiefs 12-5, Chargers 10-7, Raiders 8-9, Broncos 6-11. There it is.
I heard AP is good at entrepreneurship as well, so that gives him some bonus points.
Here we go. I just want to say, like, for Joe to call my take on Joe, what record do you have for the Chiefs again?
12-5.
I have 12-5. What record do you have for the Chargers?
9-8.
I have 10-7. What record do you have for the Raiders?
9-8.
I have 8-9. What record do you have for the Broncos?
5-12.
So who's on drugs? Because I have them at 5-12.
Because you have
drugs too? Are we sharing? Are we going back and forth here? Is that what's happening? You copied my answers, and then after you said I'm on drugs. What's going on here?
Yes, you are on drugs. Because if you say the Chargers are a better team than the Raiders right now, you're on drugs.
I said that they're very equivalent, and I even gave you like the exact games where I think this could pivot either way for either team.
I don't even know why I gave the Chargers 9-8. I just did it just to be nice to you guys when I came on the show, and then you want to come and attack me. I was going to put the Chargers.
I didn't attack you. You attacked me. I rebutted to your attack with a logical attack, and now you're saying, why would you use logic against me, Mike? That's
the funny thing is everybody wants to attack Antonio Pierce and say that he's the most inexperienced coach in the league, and he can't fucking coach, and he can't do this. Did he not beat Sean Payton last year? One of the most regarded coach, and one of the best ones. Did he not beat Andy Reid last year? Did he not do those? Are we forgetting those wins that he did as an interim head coach?
So are we outweighing one game versus
needs to go his way a little bit. And then not only that, now he had, like Tony said, now he had the whole offseason to bring in people that he wanted, to bring in mentors that he has, like Tony said, Tom Coughlin and Bruin. So this team is going to be better. Yes, they have a big fucking question mark at quarterback, and that quarterback spot could fuck the Raiders over real bad. And if Gardner Minshew goes out there and throws interceptions like he's been doing in practice, holy shit, the Raiders are going to suck, and they're going to suck. You could drop my 9 wins down to 4 wins on that team if Gardner Minshew turns the ball over. This team is built for the defense to go out there and dominate, run the ball, waste times. That's why I thought Aiden O'Connell was the best one, because you would go on 8-minute drives for the Raiders to waste that time, keep the other offense off the field. But I don't know. I just missed something, but that's what I'm saying. Like, I can't. I don't know how you Charger fans can, just because you got Harbaugh and you have an identity. How the fuck are you better this year? How, like, you lost great players.
I don't know. Ask yourself. You have us winning 4 more games. You're driving me insane over here by saying the same thing I said, but then saying I'm wrong. You're saying the same thing I said, but you're saying I'm wrong. I don't understand. You're saying respect Antonio Pierce and the Raiders, but you have the same record as me. You're not respecting them.
I don't have the same record as you. I have them as a playoff team. You don't. I have them 9-8 as the 7th seed in the AFC.
You're saying respect Antonio Pierce. You need to show this guy some respect as a coach. You need to show his defensive line respect. The Raiders are going to be great, but they're not going to win 10 games. That just doesn't. It just doesn't. Those two statements don't go together. They just don't go together. If you believe in him, at least give him 10.
I don't think you paid attention to any of my predictions this whole year.
I just went over it. I just went over it one by one. We have the same records, off by 1 game, and it's week 1.
The old time. I'm not the old fucking. I'm not giving everybody here. 13 wins to you. 10 wins to you. No,
you're just making shit up. You're just saying random shit, and you roasted me. Usually, I just stay quiet and let you say your random shit when you roast someone else. But I freaking called it out this time. That's what's happening here.
No, the best record I have in the AFC is 12 wins. 12
Same
wins. So I'm putting the Raiders 3 wins below the best team in the AFC.
And the Raiders, and the Chargers. You're putting the Chargers 4 wins or 3 wins behind the best team in the AFC. But you're saying the Raiders are way better than the Chargers, right?
Way better. Okay.
I'm on drugs. That's the whole point I'm trying to make. But I'm on drugs. I'm the one on drugs. I'm the one on drugs, though, Joe. I'm the one that always contradicts himself and is on drugs. And I actually am the one that always contradicts himself and is on drugs. But in this moment, I'm questioning you and your sobriety.
Because win totals is not everything. Wins don't make you a fucking great team. You could be an undefeated team and still look at the Pittsburgh Steelers a couple years ago. Shitty ass fucking team went 11-0. It's the teams that you have to play against. The Chargers have better matchups, not a better team.
That's not what you're saying the Raiders are going to do. You're not saying the Raiders are going to go 9-0 and then lose 8 in a row. That's not what you're saying.
I didn't say fucking anybody would do that.
You're saying the Raiders are way better than the Chargers with the same record is what you're saying. But I guess we'll just go with that and just move on to the next topic.
There's no winning with you because you got that mentality.
I'm right. I won. I'm winning. You're losing. That's why there's no winning with me.
There's no winning with you because no matter what I say, you're not going to fucking listen to it because
there's no winning with me because you agree with me. What's your record for the Chiefs again? 12-5. I have 12-5. What's your record for the Chargers? 9-8. I have 10-7. What's your record for the Raiders? 9-8. I have 8-9. We have the same.
It's not the same. 10 wins. Not the same.
There's no winning with you while you have the same prediction as me. Okay. Yeah, because the winning would be you agreeing with me. That's how you're going to win the argument when you just say, I agree with you, Mike, that the Raiders could win in between 8 and 10 games and the Chargers can win between 8 and 10 games.
So no, I think
that's my feeling with the Chargers is 9 wins.
And that's the floor for the Raiders?
Yeah. That's it. Average.
You just take it.
So I think that we argue a lot about like a game or two here or there, but when you do get to hover around that 9-10 win thing, that's a big difference. That's a difference between playoffs, season being viewed as a success, not only by the ownership, but the fans, sort of the global NFL community altogether. It's like we looked at, I'm going to go out of division for a second so that I don't rile anybody up. The Saints last year was viewed as like a complete mess and terrible, whatever. I think the Saints won 9 games last year. And like a lot of people just see the Saints as like an organization that might be headed in the wrong direction. It's like a couple different bounces their way. They don't lose that game early on in Green Bay last season. Now all of a sudden it's a 10-win team. So the margins are so thin when you're talking about the difference between 8-9 or 9-8, it can be a playoff spot and the trajectory of your season can change. Same thing happened with the Colts last year. Imagine how much different we view the Colts last season if they get it in. And the same thing with the Texans. If the Texans don't get into the playoffs last year, think about what we're thinking about the Texans. People aren't nearly as ready to just push them into the Super Bowl. I mean, they still would because of the acquisitions. So I do think that there's a difference when you're talking about the margins and it's that end as opposed to the difference between 12, 13 wins. It's a little bit division winner stuff. Or when you're talking more like 5 to 7 wins, then you start talking about teams flirting with early top 10 picks. So like,
completely agree. Yeah, I completely agree. That's where I was kind of like factoring in, like when we talk about these two teams, went over what I like about the Raiders. I gave a lot of compliments and stuff about them, but huge problem at quarterback and head coach that I'm asking questions about, which Joe is too. Everyone is. So that's why I put the Chargers at 10 and the Raiders at 8.
Yes.
And that's the difference right there. What you're saying, Tony, to me. Now it could go the other way. If the Chargers lose that week 1 game to the Raiders, immediately we go to 9-8 and 9-8 if I'm wrong about that.
We literally, as fans, our bias should be reflected in the record. Like that's
why the Raiders should not have a 9-win projection from the biggest Raiders fan I know.
But so I think that there's like, I take that as like Joe understands the situation of what the team is in and what they're going through. And it's the same thing. Like I want the Raiders or the Chargers to be 12-5. Like I've told you guys, text you both privately where I'm like, I keep getting excited about the schedule or like how good the defense looks in preseason. And I'm like, man, I have the Chargers as 13-4 this year, but that's just me being a fan. And when I take a step back, look at it, I'm like, all right.
I don't know what you're celebrating, Joe. He's calling you high. He's calling you high, Joe. He's calling you high right now.
I don't have fucking 10 wins.
How many wins do you have?
9.
Just realize how you sound, bro. Just realize how you sound.
How the fuck?
We don't need to keep going. We don't need to keep going. We don't need to keep going if we're just going to sit here and keep saying, like, Mike, you're on drugs for saying they're going to win one more game than me. Like, you're such a fucking idiot, Mike. Get off the screen. Delete all your accounts.
There's a big difference between 9 and 10 wins in the NFL. Big difference.
It's not like a you're on drugs difference. There is a big difference. There's a big difference, but it's not like a you're on drugs, Mike, difference.
Yes, it is.
It's not like that. It's not like that. No, it's not.
Well, it'll always, we talk about it now where it doesn't seem like a big difference, but come January of this year, there's a lot of teams like Nick Sirianni definitely sees a big difference between winning the division with 10 wins or Mike McCarthy winning the division.
Joe isn't the head coach of the Raiders, and I'm the head coach of the Chargers. We're on a show giving our division predictions. We're generally speaking, we're predicting games in week 14 and who's going to win that game. Yeah. Generally, me and Joe think the Chargers are going to be similar level teams in the wild card picture. And he's saying I'm on drugs, though. And that's my point, is that we always exaggerate on this show like Mike is crazy and then agree with him right afterwards. And that actually is going to make Micah go crazy.
I never agree with Mike. I will never, ever agree with Mike.
Holy shit. Let's go to the NFC West.
Oh, we have a whole other division. Yay.
Yes, we got one more. We got about 15 to 20 minutes of fire left in the belly before we just cruise on in to Thursday. We'll be back for a Friday show to react to that, talk about the weekend games. Very excited about it. But we are in the NFC West. Joe, you want to go first on this one? NFC West, what do you got?
The number 1 pick for next year's draft is coming out of the NFC West. I'll say that right now. And that's with the Arizona Cardinals, who I have as the worst team in the NFL going into next year. They might be competitive, but they just don't have it. Like, if you look at this schedule, and I've talked to you guys about this all the time. If you look at the Arizona Cardinals schedule, there is a good chance that they could start 0-7, 0-8. Like, that's how tough that schedule is. I'm not saying they will, but when I was going through their schedule and I was like, okay, this could be a win, it was tough. Like, I had to stop and tell myself, like, hey, stop hating on the Cardinals a little bit and give them some wins here and there. And I had to go back and change it. I think I've changed their record a couple times. It's very tough for me to give a team it's very tough for me to predict a team with 1 win, 2 wins, 3 wins. If you guys ever notice, I give a little bit more. I take wins away from the top, and I even out the NFL a little bit. So this would be my worst team in the NFL, or second worst team, because I am tied with the Carolina Panthers. And the Carolina Panthers would fuck up getting the first round pick anyways, or the first overall pick. So I have the Arizona Cardinals at 4-13 right there. That would be tied with the worst record in the NFL in my standings with the Carolina Panthers. Number one, I still have the 49ers at number one. I wanted to drop them. I was trying to figure out a way to drop them. The Brandon Ayuk, if he didn't re-sign, I was going to drop him a little bit more. With Trent Williams, it still scares me. Brock Purdy and his issues, like watching Brock Purdy against the Raiders backups, he hasn't progressed like I thought he should in the last couple of years. Like, he's still making the mistakes that he was making last year. And to turn your back completely to the defense and then throw the ball up and hope that George Kittle makes a great play for you, how many times is that going to work? It's working right now, but how many times will that continue to work for him? But I still have looking at the Niners schedule, and you're going through, it's like that with the defense that they have, like how many times can you make them lose? It's very tough to be. So I think I'm being generous, but I'm giving the Niners 11 wins, 11-6 at the top of their division. Second place, I have the Los Angeles Rams. I really like what the Rams are doing. They're a young team, but they're losing Aaron Donald, but I think they rebuilt that defensive line really fucking good. People are going to question why they got rid of Ernest Jones. I'm questioning the same thing. Why they had to do it this year, why they had to do it right at the beginning of the season. It just shows you that one team values linebackers, one team doesn't. The Rams, that might hurt the Rams in the long run, and that's kind of why I went more with the 49ers over the Rams, is because the Rams went with the youth. So I'm taking the Rams at 9-8 because I'm not writing off Sean McVay anymore. And the Seattle Seahawks, this is one of those teams that it's like, what are we doing here? Like, how do you determine what the Seattle Seahawks are? They're going from Pete Carroll to McDonald. Their defense should be a lot better. I like Murphy on that defensive line. I like the young guys on their defense. Do I buy Geno Smith and that team? Tyler Lockett just came back from injury today. He's ready to go, so they got their 3 wide receivers set. When Kenneth Walker is healthy, one of the best running backs in the league, could get it done. But for some reason, I'm just not giving them the wins. I think it's going to be the same thing where they're losing late in games where they're good for 3 quarters, hanging in there, and then that 4th quarter they end up losing the game at a very close rate. I have the Seattle Seahawks going 5-12 this season.
Wow,
Lots of losses.
Mike, NFC West, what do you got?
Yeah, that's a lot of losses for those 2 bottom teams. Man, they're going to be drafted both in the top 7 or top 5 picks. That'll be interesting, because that will give them both. I'm assuming if the Cardinals completely fall apart like that, the opportunity to bring in some game changers again. The Seahawks will probably be in the quarterback market if that happened. But all right, I'll start mine off here with my last place team. And I do not have the same last place team as Mr. Joe Morley here. I have the Seattle Seahawks finishing in last this year. And I agree with you, Joe. They're a really hard team to call. And last year, I was really high on the Seahawks to a point that I had them like overtaking the Niners. It was because of all the additions they made to the defense, and it seemed like there was a commitment to making this defense stellar, not just good. Like, they were going overboard with some of the investments they were making in the defense. They were putting in picks on 2 corners in back-to-back drafts, and they just kept going. They added guys like Kobe Durant in the mid rounds of the drafts, and added defensive linemen for their depth like Derek Hall and these guys. And it didn't work as much as I thought it was going to work last year. They just weren't as good, and I worry about it this year now that the expectations of Mike McDonald getting in there and getting this talented defense, that maybe I raised them a little bit too high again, and that caused me to lower them. And the schedule's tough, and I know everyone's schedules are brutal. Everyone has a hard time. I know the Cardinals have a tough schedule too, but I like the Cardinals' chances to get some upsets more than I like the Seahawks with their quarterback, with their receiver that they just got there, the tight end they got coming out of there. I like the Cardinals to get into some shootouts and win a few of those with teams like Buffalo and LA, which they opened the year. I got the Seahawks at 7-10 in last. I got the Cardinals at 8-9 in third. I think these 2 teams could flip. I do have the Cardinals starting the season off, Joe, 2-6, but I have them upsetting Buffalo and LA to start the season and getting us all really, really juiced. I do agree. This schedule is brutal, especially like going all the way to Miami, going all the way to Green Bay. That's not fun for an Arizona team. So I got the Cardinals at 8-9 in second, and then I'll go first. I had the Rams. I did. But the Brandon Ayuk thing, it's got me giving the Niners the edge just barely. So I got the Niners at 11-6. I got the Rams at 11-6. I got the Rams the 49ers with the tiebreaker. I do have them splitting. So what would that tiebreaker need to be? An offensive tiebreaker, I think, right? Points scored, point differential.
Yeah, I think when it's divisional, right? Isn't it the division record?
Division record, maybe. I should probably double check that I actually have the Niners in via tiebreaker. But if I had to pick one with Ayuk coming back, I will slightly give it to the Niners just because of how young that Rams defense is now. Now, I will say, if the Rams are really good, like really, really good, and Aaron Donald's sitting at home and he's like, I'm the missing piece to this thing. Like, could he come mid-season and take the Rams to Super Bowl contenders like right away, just like that? If the secondary's good, the pass rush is looking good, I think that there's a possibility for it. And that will be a lot of fun down the stretch of this season. If you give Aaron Donald back to the Rams, who are, let's say a 3-loss team at midseason or a 2-loss team at midseason, with the Niners as a 2-loss team at midseason, and let's see who freaking wins this race. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, I think that's a tough thing for Aaron Donald, right, to come back. It's all
rumors, Tony, and I don't take too much stock into him, but everyone is saying that he's staying in playing shape in the event that the Rams are looking like they're going on a run or something. So
yeah, there's just
he's
something
thinking about it at least. Like there's smoke at least.
It's like when you leave at the top of your game, you don't want to then come back and maybe put some film, like some memories where it's like, oh man, remember Aaron Donald at the end? Like he was just kind of okay. Like he was getting blocked by average centers, and not to say that would happen, but you just don't want to see that, anyways, whatever. NFC West, my perspective, I got the Cardinals in last at 6-11. I do think it's a competitive team. Again, is this a team that with the later deadline, they start looking at selling players like Budda Baker? I wrote down another couple interesting names here. At least one of them, Dennis Gardeck. He's he's like an edge rusher guy that is very underrated because of how bad they've been. I could see somebody saying like, hey, we got a 5th-round pick for this guy to come over here and add some pass rush because we're banged up. And then also James Conner. Again, like if you can just get a 6th-round pick, if Conner's healthy enough at that point, it's like, hey, we need somebody, a veteran we can trust in pass protection and carry the ball reliably for, 8 to 10 touches a game. That might be something they're looking at. It's also like a weird situation where it's like with the coach, if it really falls off, like, do they start looking around with the amount of people that would be out there? I think Monty Ossenfort might have some tie in some way to Mike Vrabel. That could be like an interesting situation. But then also too, like if you're the Cardinals and you're so bad, do you start looking at like what it would look like? Hey, there's teams out there that need a starting quarterback that might be willing to take on this contract. Well, can you trade Kyler and then draft when you're at the top of the draft? That's why I think that the Panthers are in a weird spot too. Because it's like if you're back up there at win, can you afford for the narrative to go like, yeah, well, we passed on a top 2 or 3 quarterback again? Like it's just a weird spot to be in. Let's go to the top. I too, like Mike, have 11-6 Rams, 11-6 Niners. My tiebreaker goes to the Rams in this case. Now, this is a little sort of optimistic best case scenario for the Rams. I did the same thing last year, best case scenario with the Seahawks. Seahawks just could not get 3rd down conversions last year. Like if you go back and watch any of those games, like even in like the red zone area, like they just were not good for whatever reason. I'm not to the Seahawks yet, but like I think the Rams, the difference will be Sean McVay. When those close games happen, it'll be there. They're going to figure things out. I'm not going to lie, I don't love the trade in Ernest Jones. Like I don't love losing my best 2 defensive players in the same offseason. That's not huge for me, but I'm going to go rose-colored glasses, Rams there. The Niners, on the other hand, have just had the most chaotic offseason possible for this team. And then it got more chaotic with what happened to the 1st-round pick. Like even before what happened to Ricky Pearsall, he was having trouble with hamstring soft tissue injuries at rookie minicamp and the training camp. And then you're without Trent Williams. Like I will not have them 11-6 if for some reason Trent's like, yeah, I'm just not playing 8 games. Like I'm just going to sit out until I decide to come in, early October to come play football. I just don't believe this is the same team that Brock Purdy can be the same quarterback without Trent Williams on the field. And they need to start really addressing what the left tackle situation and tackle situation overall looks like. There was one more. Oh, yeah. And the other thing about the Niners, too, is like you just have a lot of really key players on defense that are coming back. Ufunga and Greenlaw coming back from injury. Like those guys, you forget that Super Bowl probably goes different if Greenlaw if that Achilles stays intact in that game there. Third place, I got the Seahawks 8-9. I've kind of consistently rose this ranking. Just the more I look at, like I really do think Ryan Grubb is going to be able to spread things out and improve things for Kenneth Walker, but also use JSN appropriately in the slot and have Tyler Lockett still constantly be putting up great seasons. And DK Metcalf, I think that this is the year that we see DK Metcalf reach that level that we've always wanted. When he first broke onto the scene, I would argue with young people, DK Metcalf is Calvin Johnson 2.0. And as Mike knows, I would lose my mind when people would say that because there's video of Calvin Johnson being triple teamed with like Golden Tate or Nate Burleson running wide open. And Stafford was still like, fuck it. And just throwing it up to Calvin. And he's like making crazy plays happen. I think we could get to a point where it's not that drastic, but I do think we could start to see DK maybe having one of those years where it's 1750 and double-digit touchdowns and 95 catch it, season where you're looking at, you're like, holy shit, DK top 5, all that. So that I think that'll be interesting. Mike McDonald, he's got pieces to work with on this defense, and if he figures it out, the defense is going to be pretty good. But it's a tough division to play in. Questions offensive line wise, I do think they brought in some nice veterans to help that situation out. But yeah, it's a tough division to be in. So Rams 11-6, Niners 11-6. That's contingent on Trent Williams showing up.
Right.
Seahawks 8-9. And again, I can see the Seahawks winning 10 games this year. Arizona 6-11, probably getting a top 10 pick, adding like a one of the best pass rushers next year. And it's like, oh, we got that. And now we got Michael Wilson and Marv, and we, Trey Benson took off, and we got Trey McBride. It's like, okay, this is fun. This Cardinals team can be headed in the right direction next year. So
at the same breath though, Tony, like you hate those comparisons when people start saying Calvin Johnson and all that.
Yeah.
At the same time, it kind of exposes the best things about sports. Like there's just sometimes guys that it's just in here, man. It's just in here. It's just different. DK runs a faster 40, jumps a higher vertical, and is the same build as Calvin Johnson, but cannot dominate on that level in a heavier passing league with better rules for the receivers to go up and get passes and more PI rules that would make Calvin Johnson even more unstoppable right now. So it's just crazy. And that's what we love about the sport and those extra players that just have that extra bit in them. And that's the difference with Calvin Johnson. So legends are legends for more than just physical attributes.
And let's not act like DK Metcalf doesn't love three ways. Like he loves being all in there. And
Okay.
I don't know what that was about. I'm glad I don't.
I think we should go back to the Niners though, because with our limited time here, we got 10 minutes left. We should talk about the Niners because for one, the Trent Williams thing, Trent Williams held out on Washington, didn't he?
He sat out the whole season.
So what would stop him from doing it now when he's a little older and he's already made more money?
But that's the thing.
Here's my thing.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No,
here's my thing on Trent Williams. I think Trent Williams knows he's at the end of the career. I think he wants to retire already, but I think he feels that he could play one more season, squeeze a little bit more money out, and take off next season. I, in my mind, am surprised that Trent Williams even came back this season, let alone wanting more money and sitting out. So I think Trent Williams is right there going, how much money can I squeeze out of the 49ers this season right now to come back, play 17, 18 more games, and then just book it out. He knows that he's not getting the rest of his 3-year contract. He's not getting the rest of it.
Yeah. And you can kind of feel that. You could kind of feel the energy. And I think I sent you guys that Teo take where he kind of laid it out perfectly. But you can kind of feel that almost around the team. Like when you just watch 49ers stuff, like Debo doesn't seem as happy and he's just always smiling. He's just always having a great time. You don't really see that. Kittle isn't doing the sprinkle stuff and when he's catching passes and getting up and yelling and getting hyped after a big first night. He's just going straight back to the hill. I know it's the preseason. What can we really tell from that? Brock Purdy doesn't seem like he's like locked in, ready to go in midseason form yet. Brandon Ayuk wants his damn money and he wants it right now. Trent Williams is playing games, like whatever it is, whether it's retirement, whether it's financial. Like this is a team that's supposed to be trying to win the Super Bowl this year. This is like an all-in season, and we can't get everyone here.
Trent knows he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. Like he's going the moment that he's eligible, he's going to be voted in. He's one of the freakiest players we've ever seen, regardless of position and what he can do. Like when they put together highlight tapes, you're like, holy shit, that's an offensive tackle out there on the edge, leading and just mowing down human beings, and not just average, like giant linebackers or safeties or whoever. And he's just like, boof, boof, just dispensing people. I do think there's a little credence to what Joe's saying about like he can take it or leave it. Like he's like, hey, I want to play. I think this team has a chance to win a Super Bowl, but I have no guaranteed money on my contract, and you guys need to show me that you want me to be here, and I will be back. And I think the 49ers understand we also need him. I think if we're talking about the 49ers, the part we didn't talk about, I would have liked to get into more if we were going to have a longer show, is the fact that how much just devastation can you take? I believe they would have beat the Eagles with a healthy Brock Purdy in that game. That's just me personally, right? Like people forget, like Jalen Hurts really didn't play that well up until the Super Bowl. Like Super Bowl, he balled out. That was amazing. But up until that, like that game against the Giants, I think they got, and then that team, like it just wasn't super impressed. I would have picked the 49ers. I did pick the 49ers. Next year, you come back and you lose the Super Bowl like the way they did in overtime. Like, how many times can you continue on that Groundhog's Day to like wake up and be like, hey, like, and then it just ends in devastation. I do think they have the culture, the pieces, the players to continue to make that happen. But if a few things go wrong for them, I think that this thing snowballs in a bad direction really hard.
Who are you more worried about snowballing out of control this year, Tony? The Dallas Cowboys or the San Francisco 49ers?
The Cowboys, 1,000%. Like I just
okay.
I think
just
that thing's already held together with duct tape.
The Niners have more of like a real roster put together to lean on.
Leadership, coaching, front office, ownership, like it all just feels more stable to me. To me, obviously I'm not in the building, but to me,
it would take a lot more for the Niners to collapse than the Dallas Cowboys. Like the Dallas Cowboys, you're just looking for that one little thing you can flick, and then the Niners, there's multiple pillars that are still holding it up.
Yeah, with the Cowboys, you have the coach playing for whatever. At a certain point, like he's not under contract. At a certain point, the coach is just sort of like, hey, if you're going to fire me, let's just get this over with, because Mike McCarthy will get hired again.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. He seems like a guy that would say that too. Like, I'll go coach somewhere else. Fuck it. Like, who cares? You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to try my best to win. I've already got one under my chin. I already got one under my belt. I already did it. Like,
and you have Dak too, who's out there where it's like, hey, if I'm a free agent, if it's going bad, it's like I got an off season coming up, and I don't want to enter that injured. He already knows. Like, that's the great thing about Dak. He knows if he enters an off season injured, what's the potential penalty? The highest paid quarterback in league history. That's what happened when he broke the leg the last time. It's like he's going to be the free agent of choice next offseason. Yeah. And going to get $63 million guaranteed a season.
Even Kirk. Yeah, even Rodgers. Rodgers is a good example too. He had that big he had injuries and stuff, and they still gave him the crazy money. It's Dak is going to get a crazy amount of money from Jerry Jones or from someone else for certain. The other thing is about the Niners that gives me more confidence that they're not going to completely fall off the rails is they just still have, like, they can just go to the basics and they just go, we're going to lean on the defense and we're just going to run the shit out of the ball. I think Jordan Mason and CMC is an upgraded duo from previous years even. So I think they could still just, if it all else fails, Brock Purdy's stinking, left tackle's out, we're running it to the right side a bunch of times.
Yeah, and I'm here's one thing about the Niners. It's like we've talked about it that it feels, and people laughed at Mantel's tail when he said it a couple of weeks ago on national TV when he said that losing these Super Bowls kind of hurt you and it put you down. But I think there's another factor that we got to look at too is the Niners might be doubting themselves, right? They're still going out there, still doing their thing, and they're doubting themselves just a little bit, but they're still a top team. But I think what happened last year in the playoffs in the Lions game with the Green Bay Packers game, it built those teams up just a little bit where they're like, Niners ain't shit. Right, we can go out just a little bit where they felt like we lost the game. The Niners didn't beat us. We lost that game, which is going to build the Lions and the Packers up. Just you can believe what you want, but what happened in that game, what lost the game, what won that game. But in the Niners, or if you're the Lions and you're the Packers, you're not looking at the 49ers as that dominant team anymore. You're looking at them like, we can beat them. We got this. All we got to do is play our game and we can beat them. And so I think that's what drops the Niners just a little bit more this year is that teams aren't as scared as them because they think they can hang with them again now.
Mm-hmm. I wish MCDC would have just paid attention to anything that's been going on in the league over the last couple of years and just not staleyed himself out of the Super Bowl. That would have been awesome.
Yeah, that's you live and die.
You live and die with your fucking sword.
Your sword's
not long enough.
That aggressiveness.
You're gonna die.
You got that offensive line, and hopefully the Chargers can have that.
Hopefully,
I just don't know how you guys are giving Arizona so many. What'd you give Arizona, Mike?
I have them at 8 wins. I do think I am high on the Cardinals compared to others, so I will give you that. I just think. I think if the offense clicks, it's going to be one of the best in the league, and I think that they can win some of these games that are going to be maybe shootouts. I have no faith in the Bills' defense. Like a lot of people are telling me that the Bills' defense is going to be fine. I have zero faith. Like this first game against Josh Allen, I think it's going to be 35-30, whichever team wins. I got the Cardinals upsetting them, but I think that when they get into those games, they stand a chance to pull a few upsets off this year. Maybe 3, maybe 4 upsets.
See, everybody's asking me, what do you think about Murray this year? And there's nothing about Murray. I don't think Kyle Murray has changed his talent or anything like that. He's the same thing. Like if you're looking at fantasy football, like I told people, like you want to draft him, you draft him for garbage points because that's where the Arizona Cardinals offense is going to show up is when they're down by 14, 21 points and they're coming back and throwing that rock around.
Here's the games I have them winning. I have them upsetting Buffalo and then LA to start the year. LA's at home, Buffalo's on the road. And then I have them sneaking one on the Jets late in the year. I have them getting the Vikings, the Seahawks, the Patriots, the Panthers, and then the 49ers week 18, which will be really funny if that's for the division. Like the Niners lose the division to the Rams because of that week 18 loss.
So you have Arizona start. You said you have them starting 2-6 and then turn it around and winning the back.
Getting hotter on the easier part of their schedule. Yeah.
Which if that happened, Jonathan Gannon's coming back for a third year.
I think he would, yes. And I think honestly, I wasn't really high on the Jonathan Gannon hire when they first did it. I think that unless it is really bad, they should give him an opportunity to go into a draft with his offense kind of good, and he can get a defensive star in there, an edge rusher, hopefully.
Every team should give their coach at least 3 years, unless it's like an Urban Meyer situation in Jacksonville. Where
it's it's not just that they're losing, like it's bad.
We just got to the point in the NFL where we want to win now, and I understand it. We want to win. We want to win. But you got to let them bring their system in. You got to let them continue to grow.
Yeah, Gannon's a defensive coach, and now we're kind of seeing what he did for the Eagles there. And he just doesn't really have a chance on defense, I don't think, this year.
I just think you have to look at what your options are. If it's like, imagine how much more excited teams would be about the Bears right now if the Bears would have landed Jim Harbaugh. Like it would be through the roof if they didn't and that doesn't necessarily mean anything, but like ownership takes that kind of shit into effect. And if it's like you're trying to build the fan base, you're trying to keep Kyler happy and everything, like are you giving him another run at this if he's 6-11, like what I have them. It's like it needs the 6-11 needs to look a certain way. That's the only thing. Because
would you swap out if like it's like, okay, let's say they go 6-11, or let's say they win 7. Let's meet in the middle of our predictions, and they look okay, but it's clearly that the defense is just cooked. And Kyler's good; he's healthy for 16 or 15 games. And it's like we're going to the next offseason, and we have a choice between Ben Johnson or keeping Gannon around, or Bobby Slowick or keep Gannon around. Do you get your quarterback one of those guys, or do you stick with Gannon and try and see this thing through?
I think this is what they do at the end of the year with the evaluations. It's like the GM and the owner and everybody gets together. It's like, what's the morale of the team? How was it this year? Like, because there's so many things that go on in these NFL buildings that the average fans, we have things leak out. But just imagine if what leaks out is there, so much more stuff is being sort of corralled, and we start to
I don't mean to interrupt you, but you're basically just talking about Nathaniel Hackett's Broncos. If everything leaked out and it all went wrong.
I'm talking about a ton of like shit teams and organizations from the past. Now these players are getting in front of podcasts, they're there. So if you're telling me that the Super Bowl this year is Texans, Lions, Slowick and Ben Johnson are available. And for whatever reason, Ben Johnson feels really weird about leaving. Like he wants to leave for the perfect spot. Ben Johnson's like, hey, let me go get I think I can work with Kyler Murray. I think I can work with the offensive line investments that they've made there. I now have coached long enough, because that's the other thing is like we keep hiring these young offensive genius or defensive genius guys, but they don't have the resources necessarily to put together competitive staffs. Like this is what you have to be able to have access to guys that are credible, proven coaches that can come in and be part of what you're doing. I think that's why I like some of the things that Dan Quinn was able to do, which we didn't talk about that portion of it, and putting together staff. One player I want to talk about that nobody ever talks about when they talk about the Cardinals offense is Michael Wilson. Like, yes, this guy is going to be wide receiver 2-ish. I don't even know what these numbers mean anymore, but like, if you can have Marvin Harrison and Wilson out there, Greg Dortch is a sneaky slot guy right there that you have. It's like they've added some other players in the draft that might be able to be developed there. Like they do have a good, fun offense, but it's like gets real shallow, like real shallow in that, no diving type situation when you get into their depth questions, and especially on the defensive side of the ball, it gets like that. And if you start looking towards the future, if it's rocky, like what you said, Mike, like, oh, I have them at 2-6. Hey, trade deadlines here. Are we not trying to get a 4th round, 3rd round pick for Budda Baker? Like, I mean,
I think if they did that, if it's Baker, it's just like my outlook on the defense is the same without Budda. So I feel like I'll still have a similar prediction. But if they trade Kyler or something crazy like that, Tony, that would tank them. Like that would put them in the top 5.
No, I don't think you trade Kyler mid-season.
I don't think you should. No, I don't think so either.
Yeah, just because I don't know the financial ramifications of that in season, whatever it is. But I could definitely see it making sense for them to move on. We
spent a lot of time
season with a high draft pick. There's a quarterback they really like.
We spent a lot of time talking about the Arizona Cardinals, like more time than we should even give them.
I disagree with that, because I think that there are a lot of teams out there that deserve to be talked about, that when you watch TV shows, they never talk about the Cardinals. Like we should talk about them.
There's a reason they don't talk about the Cardinals.
Yeah, but we're not out here chasing ratings. If we were chasing ratings, I would have been like, my Raiders pick is 3-14, and here's why. So that Joe could have cut it up and made a viral clip. I would be. I'm not out to chase ratings.
I will say
engagement or click or whatever. I'm here to talk about football and how I honestly feel with my friends. That's all I give a shit about.
Yeah, and we're gonna keep talking about football, Tony, and that's a good transition in here to sending us home. But Tommy Huxley, I've never seen you chat before. But please subscribe to the channel. If you're going to comment stuff like this, I'm in. We want you on the team. So come on. Subscribe, Tommy T, Tommy Huxley. My 2 favorite Tommies.
And Tommy's firing everybody, though. He's like, fire Dennis Allen, fire Robert Saleh. Like, Huxley's, he's on.
Fire Antonio Pierce. Throw it in there. If he's saying 3-14, fire him too.
Oh, he's a Niners fan. He's a Niners fan. He says the Niners are sweeping the Fraudinals. Look at that. Is that Huxley too? Like playing the electric guitar in there? Is that really
something.
you?
He's playing something, but yeah,
really
already
knows how to
subbed. Good reminder, Tony. Tell everyone to subscribe to the channel, and then tell them to
Show off
say
the t-shirt.
positive things.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's rock it out. We'll be doing more on this, but as you can see behind me, fifthdown.shop. We got some fun t-shirts for you on game day, whether you're going to the bar or you're going to the stadium. Look a little different, you know, and just take the team pride to another level. Some stuff we created that we're really excited, fun to have wearing here. Look at this. We got more. Mike's got more. We don't have all the teams up, but we will. We're going to get there. That's the goal. We're just going to keep on putting them out there and hoping that the fans enjoy them. Again, that's fifthdown.shop. We're going to do a better job of putting together advertisements and everything going. But yeah.
And of course we have fat sizes, so it's good.
Yeah, we do. We're
everybody forgets about the guys.
Most of the gear goes up to 5X.
Is this Fitz? Is this Mr. Fitz from Vegas?
Yeah.
What's going on, brother? How are you? It was good. Good getting to hang out with him for a couple minutes this weekend at the draft. Looking forward to running into you.
Fitz had just posted the video of how Charger fans love to eat their own ass.
We are not sharing. I'm not ending my show with that bullshit, Joe.
Fitz, please comment your record prediction for the AFC West. I'm very interested for every team, please.
Yeah. Again, let's end it with a little positivity. Get out there somewhere on the internet and hype up a guy on your team going into regular
SoFi Stadium this weekend. All of us will be there. So if you guys see us, we're going to be wearing our Fit Down shirts. Check them out. Take a picture with us. Let us know what you guys think of it. Give us honest opinions are always great. Like I love honest opinions. So please, like those are the worst ones. So surround yourself with yes men. I think is always the worst thing that people can do. Let us know if you have anything. And tell us what you think, or if you have an idea or something that we should change. Let us know. It's always great to hear that. But constructive criticism, I love it. I'm all for it, and you can tell in my comment section.
I'm into constructive criticism, like, hey, you should try this, or maybe add this player. But if it's just like, hey, you look like a fucking douche, it's like, all right, great, awesome.
That wasn't constructive. I can't fix that.
Yeah, but
you're right, Joe. You're right.
You know what the good thing about being a douche, Tony, is you always get pussy.
That's it. Positivity. We need positivity. Enjoy it. We're a few days away from kickoff.